New CEO of the Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority. And I would say, first I want to thank Javon for bringing it together in Augusta. I know you've been doing this for many years, and my understanding that the crowds continue to get larger and larger, and that means the issues continue to get deeper and deeper. The kind of challenge that we see primarily, they're manifold, but I will say that first off that and we have two pieces of Richmond Redevelopment Housing Authority. First, on the Public Housing Authority side of our balance sheet, I'll start with saying public housing was never meant for people to live in generation after generation of public housing. That's one of our challenges. And so one of the biggest things is to be able to get public housing residents to a place of self-sufficiency so that they can enter the private market, be it rental or homeownership. What does that do? That creates an opportunity for us to bring other folks that are waiting on this horrible wait list so we can help more families. So that's one of the big challenges. How do we get our public housing residents in a position so they're ready to go into the rental market or into homeownership? One of the other challenges that we see is that because the city of Richmond is landlocked, as we all know, that there's only so many places where in the city where those would-be renters would go in public housing, or those that can qualify for homeownership to go within the geographical confines of the city. What does that mean? That means that one of the reasons why we have created our Richmond Development Housing Authority a new solution, and that is we're launching on February 7th an entity called the Richmond Development Corporation. It is a corporation that is focused on a regional solution to solve the problem because it cannot be solved within the city geographical confines. It is a vehicle to partner with our partners and to have a new conversation. A young lady was out there from Hanover County, and she was talking about I'd like to talk to you afterwards, talk about some innovative and creative ideas about how can we engage with our partners. Well, the Richmond Development Corporation, again, which we launched on February 7th. Hope some of you can come. We don't have capacity for everyone, as Javon has, but it is to look at a regional solution to affordable housing, but economic development and housing. I do not believe that you ought to go out and put someone in home ownership when they don't have a job to sustain themselves to be in that home, right? You're setting them up for failure because they're going to foreclose. Neither do I believe that giving someone a Section 8 voucher or a federal subsidy to have them to go into rental home ownership. Why? Because if they don't have a job, again, to sustain them making those rent payments, it's all for naught. So the Richmond Development Corporation, we're going to be partnering, engaging in conversation with our county partners to say, how can we do something that focuses on jobs, economic development, and housing? We've begun going to tap the capital markets and go out with both not only a housing revenue bond, but also, many of you know, which is a tax increment financing revenue bond, which is focused on economic development and jobs, right? So you got to marry that together. So that's what we're going to be looking to do what I call, I'll end it by saying, transformational change, right? Because if you do what we've been doing for a long time is this HUD, and I know HUD very well because I was former assistant secretary, but if you do these HUD, RAD, tax credit deals, you'll do 100 units here, 100 units there. Let's do something that's transformational. Let's do something big, and it will have to include the state legislature. Thanks. I think economic development, jobs, and transportation support are part of that without engaging with our regional partners and getting around the hermetically sealed boundaries of, that we have with Henrico, Chesterfield, and Hanover. And that's one of our biggest focuses, engaging in a dialogue and figuring out how we get past some of the nomenclature of what affordable housing means, right? When you hear the term, do we talk a little bit more about workforce housing as part of our dialogue as we go forward? Because that's a part of it, because, it's an important, workforce housing is, doctors, not doctors, policemen, teachers, nurses, and that's affordable as well. And so we want to, our real focus is really around having a very, very robust conversation with our partners and having a regional dialogue, Javon. That's what we want. Now, how do we do that? Part of that, and I'll make a shameless plug, and maybe you and Laura might get upset, but we want to engage in that. Part of that is having data. I'm a data guy. And so we don't have the data. So we want to do with the partnership for housing affordability, Javon. I'm not saying we want to bring your organization within our organization, because I don't want to get in trouble with Laura Lafayette, but because I can't merge you in. I mean, I've gotten in trouble already. But we want to engage in partnership with you all to bring the data that you have to the conversation. Because it's nice to talk about policy, it's nice to talk about something that's aspirational, but really data drives it. And you all have that data, and I want to have that's one of our big things, is to have the data to have the conversation. That's one of our two biggest things.
We have no shortage